This is reposted.
Tammi Kirkness is a speaker, author, life coach, and founder of Vision Scope Coaching. Her new book is The Panic Button Book, Relieve Stress and Anxiety Wherever They Strike. You can find her at Tammi with an I, Kirkness. Tammi, thanks for coming on the Reposted podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's start with a quote from you. You say, anxiety comes in many flavors. Some of us have had a lifetime of secretly struggling while looking like we're achieving our way through life. Others have talked openly about their fears and worries. Some have used medication, some haven't. So we're all anxious about something, it seems like. Do some people not know what they're anxious about, and that's the problem?
So many of us stroll through our days and stroll through our years without realizing that we're worrying, that we're overthinking, we're overanalyzing, and we are perfectionists in recovery. So yes, a lot of us don't even realize that we're feeling this way.
Yeah, I had, back in 2009, I had extreme stomach pain, and went to so many doctors, and I was in a bad relationship. I was in a bad job. We broke up and I quit, and 3 days later, my pain went away. I think Larry and I were talking about this earlier, but what do you think when you talk to people about being able to listen to yourself? And there's so many distractions in life right now. How do you block that out and find time to look inward?
Well, so many of us process emotions physically, exactly like you just said. So that sort of knotted stomach, or really tense shoulders, or in a lot of cases, a jaw that clamps shut when we go to sleep, and we wake up with that sore neck, the sore TMJ joint, and it feels awful. For people who are figuring out how to tap in to figure out how they're actually feeling and what's going on emotionally for them, if we can take even a 1 minute pause where we take a couple of deep breaths at the start and almost body scan and say, what feels interesting, what feels unusual happening either in my body or in my heart, and then see what your body whispers back.
The book is great because it's sort of like exactly what you're talking about. It's like you can go right to the section to deal with the anxiety that, whether it's in a marriage or communication or with kids or whatever, it's really great. But before we get to that, you're a speaker, you go around talking to people, you're a life coach. What's like the number one anxiety people stop you and talk about?
People are often talking about speaking in front of others. It's one of the most socially acceptable anxieties that people are comfortable to talk about. So while people are nervous about doing a best man speech or a maid of honor speech at a wedding, those are the ones that we hear most frequently. But what is actually underneath all of that I see as the most common style of anxiety is feeling like we are out of control in our life in some way.
Cool. So one of the things about you that I think is true, you're a yoga teacher, is that right?
Yeah, yoga and meditation teacher.
So does that go hand in hand with your approach to working with people? It's like, hey, check out some yoga and that'll fix a lot of stuff for you. Because I know personally for me, doing yoga has really helped me be able to identify my body more. But what do you think?
Yeah. For me personally, because I am somebody who has managed my own anxiety literally my entire life, I automatically gravitated towards doing yoga since I was 12 years old. It went hand in hand with helping me breathe better and be more aligned with my body and cope with literally the everyday. But yoga's not going to be for everybody. I so get that. Not everybody wants to don yoga tights and sit in a lotus pose. I really get that, And so for some, it's fabulous. And for some, going on, a 15-kilometer run is going to give them the same benefits that I personally get from doing an hour yoga class.
Like I said, your book kind of has different sections. One of those is about kids. And I like thinking about the original human beings sitting around the Serengeti, like in teepees, and everybody seeing each other's business, right? And so if I'm having problems parenting back in the original days, someone would just look over out of their teepee and say, I'll just help that person because they're having problems. One of the things you talk about is when it comes to parenting, we're all wondering if we're doing it right.
Oh, yes. I coach a lot of women in particular, and this is one of the most common things they come and say. They say, you know, I'm hoping I'm doing it right. I don't want to ruin them in some way. I don't want to damage them when they're adults at some point. And because exactly like you've alluded to, we're not as close-knit community-wise as we used to be back in those Serengeti days. So if we can figure out how to connect with ourselves even more and forgive ourselves when we mess things up and reach out for help when we need it and identify when we're struggling personally, we're going to be the best parents we can be because we're being the best humans that we have the capacity to be at that point.
So back to what you said on forgiving yourself when you mess up, like when you help people that are setting goals and putting themselves outside their comfort zone, I personally think you learn the most from failure. But what is holding people back from stepping out and facing the potential of failing?
Nobody likes to feel like they tried something and it failed. One of the really common links that I see every day is this link between perfectionism and procrastination. So, you know, people are, let's say they want to launch a new business and they leave it to the last minute to have their web page or their landing page come up. And then what they can do with that procrastination is if it doesn't go well for some reason, instead of saying, I didn't do the best that I could do, or there's something that I need to learn, we can eventually blame it on our time capacity and say, well, because I left it to the last minute, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not flawed in any way. It's because I did it at 11 p.m. the night before. And so if we realize that this link is going on in so many of us, we can say, you know, if I give myself a break and I know that I'm going to put something out there that definitely people are not going to like in some capacity, that's okay. And realizing that also if we do that and it messes up or nobody clicks in, that we can forgive ourselves for doing our best and it still didn't quite work out. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm still great. I still accept myself as I am, but I forgive myself for not giving myself enough time or not asking us enough questions. And that can really change the game emotionally and mentally.
Yeah, and I think there's a vulnerability with being able to put yourself out there because, oh, I didn't do it, but I didn't give my all versus this is the best I can do. And if you fail, like that can really sting.
Oh man, it can sting. No, I've had my business for 6 years now, and there's been plenty of things I've tried, and it's just not worked. And, you know, having that moment at night where you think, I put so much effort, I put so much time into that, and it's kind of done averagely. You know, I'm not going to put any more effort into that. It feels awful, and attempting to avoid that feeling is something that people who experience some degree of anxiety go through every day.
Tammi, I'm sad that the interview is over because I have lots more questions, but mainly because I want you just to keep speaking so I can listen to your lovely voice. Tammi Kirkness, the book is The Panic Button Book. Tammi is a wonderful follow on Twitter as well. She loves the tease. You can find her at Tammi with an I, Kirkness. Tammi, thanks for coming on the Reposted podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys.